Vivek Ramaswamy is running against Donald Trump for the Republican presidential ticket, so here's what you need to know about the politician making a splash.
I think the dynamic of this race changes dramatically, starting in August with that first debate stage and the series of debates through this fall.
I think that we need to declare independence from our donor class in the Republican Party. That is why I challenge every one of the other candidates to actually act on their convictions.
Ramaswamy is an American entrepreneur who was born to immigrant parents from India in Ohio.
I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Down by 98% in the last century.
Listen. Hold on.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
the same type of amateur.
Before this, his political resume involved activism while he was a student at Harvard University, where he earned his bachelor's degree before earning his law degree from Yale. While in college, he became known as a brash libertarian and was a member of the Harvard Political Union, where he later became its president. Also, while at Harvard, he co-founded Campus Venture Network, a social networking site designed for college students trying to launch a business venture. He sold that to Ewing, Marion Kauffman Foundation in 2009. Post-grad, Ramaswamy joined an investment firm before later founding a biotech company. He's earned more than $500 million and became popular as an anti-quote woke activist.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would. Just hold on.
Not to mention he skipped voting in 3 presidential elections between 2004 and 2020.
President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now.
But I still can't promise you what Congress is going to do. Trump said repeal and replace Obamacare. Didn't happen. Even when a Republican-controlled Congress could have done it, they didn't. I am focused on what the U.S. president can do without asking Congress for permission or authority.
At 38, Ramaswamy is the youngest candidate in the Republican primary.
It's not going to be too long before he rolls across a NATO border, and frankly, our men and women of our armed forces are going to have to go and fight him. I want to let the Ukrainians fight and drive Putin and the Russians back out into Russia.
I want to just briefly address Pence, Vice President Pence. I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It fell back in 1990.
Did I say
the real threat? You talked about the communists. And the real communists that we have to address right now
have any idea what Vladimir Putin's aims are.
You already spoke. Now I actually have something to say.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish the old Soviet sphere of influence.
You've made your point, Vice President.
I'm sorry if I insulted him by calling him a communist. He is a dictator and a murderer, and the United States of America needs to stand against authoritarianism.
Ramaswamy is also Hindu, but says, quote, "We are a nation founded on Judeo-Christian values," and that he's running to be, quote, commander-in-chief, not, quote, pastor-in-chief.
Do you think there were federal agents on planes on September 11th?
Of course not.
Who were part of the attack on the Twin Towers?
Per the clip that you just played, of course not was my point. However, I have a very different view of January 6th. We know for sure there were federal agents in the field.
Were you conflating the two things when you were talking about them?
No, I think the reporter asked about him in a combined manner. He said, why should we ask that question if you're not asking it of 9/11? I said, you know what? I always favor getting to the truth of what the government tells us. The deeper point, Martha, though, is this. We have a government that has systematically lied to the people of this country. I'm a millennial. I'm 38. I grew up into an era, whether it was the Clinton administration, whether it was the Bush administration or the Obama administration, that has systematically lied, gotten us into foreign wars in Iraq and elsewhere on false pretenses. Even now, we have a government that lies about the origin of COVID-19, about the veracity of that Hunter Biden laptop, about government technology censorship, increasingly about even how our money is being spent in Ukraine. And one of the things that I'm going to do as the next president of the United States is restore truth in government.